What's going on, Nasteey Nation? It's Nasteey, and in today's video, I'm going to be telling you guys my story of how I was able to hit Challenger in just 5 days. If you are excited for this video, be sure to drop a thumbs up, but without further ado, let's get into it. Today's video is sponsored by Gamers Class. Gamers Class is an online course that's main goal is to help you achieve your goals of becoming a great player, and is hosted by none other than the Anivia God and legendary LCS player Froggen. This nearly 2.5-hour course includes lessons on mechanics, matchups, closing games, and many more things. Do yourself a huge favor and head over to gamersclass.com or click on the first link in the description and use the code NASTEY10 to get 10% off your coaching session. You can even get a lesson on vision control absolutely free just for creating an account. Thanks again to Gamers Class for sponsoring this video. So I think it would be best if I started this video off just by giving a little bit of a background on my story and how I was able to hit Challenger. So at the very end of Season 6, my final rank was Diamond 5 4 LP. And I know there's a lot of people out there that would love to be a Diamond player, but I knew personally that I wanted to accomplish more, and I knew that deep down inside I was a better player, and I felt like if I dedicated myself, I could definitely get something higher than Diamond. So then Season 7 came around, and as I started to play my placement games and I got deeper into the season, I was right back where I was at the end of Season 6, hard stuck Diamond 5. I was not going anywhere. I was as hard stuck as it gets. And then I decided to sit down and ask myself, what was I doing wrong? What did I need to add to my gameplay? Just what little tips and tricks can I add that will make me start to climb more? Because I was sick and tired of being hard stuck. And that's when I decided to make the list that you're seeing on the far right side of your screen right now. And once I put this list together, I instantly went from Diamond 5 to Challenger in 5 days. And I don't actually have picture proof of this because the tier graph doesn't go that far back, so I guess you'll just have to take my word for it. So that list that I just mentioned is the list that I had up on my screen at all times during my climb to Challenger, and the picture that you're seeing right now is actually the exact moment that I hit Challenger for the first time. Now this season I've been struggling quite a bit, so I've been trying to remind myself of all the tendencies that I had during my climb. So I went back and I found this picture, and I think that this list is something that I stuck with when I was climbing, and I really need to get back on this track if I want to start climbing again this season. So in this video, I'm going to be going over all the things that you're seeing on that list right now and explaining how I was able to use all those things to help me climb to Challenger in just 5 days. So let's dive right into it with the first thing that you're seeing on the list, that is keep a good image. So this meant a couple different things for me, but I think just to summarize it, keeping a good image basically means don't be toxic. Especially when you're getting into higher ranks, you start playing with the same players over and over and over, and if you are the type of person that griefs or feeds or ints or flames other people, then that's not the type of person that people are going to be wanting to play with. And sometimes if you do create a bad image for yourself, when people see you in their lobby, they're not going to try as hard, or maybe they might int feed you. So overall, keeping a good image to me just meant play the game, don't focus on flaming, don't focus on taking your anger out on other people, focus on the game, and that was very, very beneficial in my climb. The second thing on the list is kind of a given, and that is try to learn from your mistakes. Whenever a game starts to go wrong, people always like to put the blame on somebody else. It could be their jungler, it could be their mid laner, it could be their support. Whoever it is though, they try their best to not take the blame themselves, and that is a huge flaw. I had this problem as well, and that's why I had to take a step back and just realize the fact that I was not a perfect player, that I was making mistakes, and when I was making those mistakes, I need to identify them and try to figure out a way to fix them, rather than looking to place my mistakes on another teammate. Moving down onto the third thing in the list, this is watching VODs, and this is one of the things that I think is probably one of the more important things on this list. So if you are looking to improve as a player, if you are trying to get better, get to that next rank, whatever it may be, I would highly recommend that you watch your VODs. A couple other things that you can do would be seeking coaching from a high elo player or watching informative high elo streams, but even those things I don't think compare quite as much to watching your own replays. When you're in the heat of the moment, it can be really hard to identify what mistakes you're making and recognizing what it is that you're doing wrong that's causing you to die so much. But surprisingly, if you just go back and watch your own replays, you see a lot more. I remember the first time that I went back and watched my own replays, I was surprised by just how bad I was playing. During the game, I felt like I was doing everything right. I thought I was making all the right decisions. But the second I decided to go back and watch my replay, I realized that I was playing like a absolute animal. I know this sounds way too simple to actually work, but don't knock it till you try it. Definitely go back, watch your own replays, and you will be surprised just how many times you're able to identify what you're doing wrong. The fourth thing I have on my list is practice OP champs on SMURF. I think that being a meta slave is really important, and I think it's really valuable, and I think that it's something that people often overlook, but I do think that it's important when you're trying to climb to play meta champions and play champions that are OP or considered really, really good at the moment. So I don't think that playing these champions in ranked without practice is very smart, so that's why I personally would go into maybe a normal game, a flex 2 game, or just go on a Smurf account to practice these champions, and I would recommend that you do the same as well. Next on the list is recap every game. This is a little trick that I learned actually from watching Skara stream. So if you've ever watched Skara's stream, then you already know this, but after every single game, he recaps what happened. If it was a win, if it was a loss, how the lane phase went, what the kind of mistakes he made into the mid to late game, what he should do differently in future games and future matchups similar to that. And just sometimes writing something down or typing something out can just be a really good mental reminder. And I really do think that recapping every game can be a really beneficial trick to do, so I highly recommend doing it. It definitely helped me a lot when it came to climbing. Next up is record every game, but at the time of my climb, that was before they had the option to go back into your match history and just watch the replay straight from your match history. So we're a little bit past that. You can kind of just forget that tip altogether. Next thing on the list is go even or win lane. I think this tip specifically was more of an individual issue, so you might not relate to this yourself, but an issue that I had in my own play was I was often being overly aggressive, and I would find myself falling behind and losing the game very early on. So this was just a little reminder to myself that I don't need to win the game in the first 5 to 10 minutes. If I need to scale, and if I think that my team wins later on in the game, I can just focus on going even or maybe a little bit ahead if that's a CS lead or a kill here or there. But more than anything, I just needed to remind myself to play safe, don't lose the game in the first 5 or 10 minutes, and don't try to just completely stomp the game in the first 5 or 10 minutes. Next up, we have playing for objectives. Playing for objectives is something that is repeated over and over and over again, but there's still so many people that don't understand how impactful playing for objectives is. And maybe it's not even so much that they don't understand it, and it's more along the lines of when you're in the heat of the moment, when you're in a solo queue game, it's really easy to forget that objectives and taking down the enemy towers and nexus is what wins the game. And instead, people like to just focus on getting as many kills as humanly possible. But again, you have to remind yourself that kills are not what wins you the game. Putting playing for objectives on the side of my screen was a very helpful reminder to me, and it just was a constant reminder that I have to keep the big picture in mind, and that is winning games, not boosting my KDA or not getting as many kills as I could. The next thing that I'll talk about is 100% optional. I would say that this differs from person to person, but what I have on my list is mute toxics. I think muting people is something that you should do if you are affected by other people's words very easily, and I know that as a player personally, when somebody flames me, it does get in my head sometimes, so I needed to, when it came down to it, mute the toxic players, just get rid of the negativity, that way I can start focusing on the game again. I didn't want to reply, I didn't want to retaliate, instead I just wanted to focus on the game, get rid of all the negativity, get rid of all the flamers, focus on the game. I didn't always mute all at the beginning of the game, but instead if we were in a game and maybe I messed up and somebody started flaming me at that point, I would just mute them and get back to focusing on the game. Next up on the list, I have look into win rates. So looking into win rates is just a different way of saying keep up with the meta. You don't want to be playing champions that are really, really bad in the current meta. So either look into win rates on a website like op.gg, champion.gg, or just look up tier lists from YouTubers. There's usually always a few YouTubers out there that will have a tier list out for every single patch. Looking into matchups, which is next on the list, kind of goes hand in hand with that. It just is another reminder to keep up to date with the meta. Look into, okay, is this champion good into this champion? Or maybe this champion is a good counter into that champion. Just keeping that in the back of your mind is very, very beneficial because people often overlook counterpicks. But if you can counterpick and you can get favorable matchups, that could just be the little edge that you need to set you over the top and allow you to win more of your games. And lastly, the final thing that we have on this list is play every game like a final. If you're a player that really, really cares about climbing, this just means play every game like it's the last. Play every game like it's an LCS final. Play every game like it's the world's final. I know when you're just sitting in your room with the lights off and you're slouched in your chair that it can be really hard to keep up your focus, but it really is important when you care about climbing that much to treat every game like it matters, because it really does matter in the long run. If you take this into account as well as all the other tips that I've included in this video, I guarantee you will start climbing very, very fast. These tips that I mentioned were the main reason that I was able to hit Challenger in just 5 days. It's the whole reason I was able to have a mentality and have the skill level of a Challenger player. And maybe you won't be at that same level, but I do guarantee that if you take these tips into consideration, that you will start climbing and you will become a better player very soon. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, that should just about wrap up the end of this video. I hope you were able to find this video helpful, and if you were, be sure to let me know down in the comment section below and subscribe to help the channel grow. Also, be sure to check out my Twitter, Discord, and Patreon on your way out. Links to all of them will be down in the description. Anyways, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.